Welcome to the demon world. It's full of horror and darkness. Death awaits you at every turn. Even the rivers have acid instead of water. The fate of the world is being decided today. The final battle of an endlessly long war. Humanity finally has a chance to end it all. On the throne in the demon castle sat a certain entity that was powered by energy from an incredibly strong crystal. The entity sitting there must be the Demon King, and only one man can defeat him. The Demon King was the most formidable foe in all the world. He did not know what kindness, love, and mercy were. The mere sight of him made people faint. When the demon saw the man in front of him, he said, "I wonder if you've gotten too far for a human. But it's not over yet. There's a battle ahead of you." Suddenly, the soulless stone statues that were standing around came to life. Their only goal was to kill the hero. They ran at him to tear him to pieces. Who is this incredibly funny man who single-handedly decided to fight an army of demons led by their king? However, he was not an ordinary man with unique magic. He knew there was a battle waiting for him here, and he was ready, who had gathered all his strength. He decided to attack them first. A bright orange pentagram formed around his hands. Well, it wasn't his only weapon. He hid the trump in his sleeve. From behind his back, he pulled out revolvers. Now, the demons certainly don't have a hard chance at victory. Engage. Target identification. What's up? Let's go kill some demons. With his first attack, he took out several demons at once. It was like he did it every day. He took demons' heads off one by one. His weapons had incredible destructive power, and he was an excellent shot. From the top, it'll be easier to see how many there are and deal with them as quickly as possible, especially since they won't be able to get it up there. "Explosive acceleration," shouted our hero, and a hail of bullets rained down from the sky, destroying everything in its path. The demons were furious that they couldn't do anything about it. He thought he had fewer warriors. But now that he does, it's time to deal with them sooner rather than later. The dance of the four lights. His speed increased by leaps and bounds, along with his theme and attack power. Just as suddenly, he thought something terrible was happening behind him. The demon was concentrating its energy to kill our hero. Its aura was disgusting, but still incredibly strong. And so, he attacked him. His blow created a huge crater and the ground cracked. But when the dust cloud settled, the demon saw he missed. Its attack failed to reach the hero. The demon didn't even have time to raise his head before suddenly there was already a barrel in front of his face. With a smirk on his face, our hero says, "Goodbye, asshole. Demon King. Just watch his army lose. Of 1,000 of the greatest demons, all that's left is a pile of burning ash. And only one hero could do it. It's time for the Demon King to do battle, and show what he can do." When the hero saw him, he said, "He's finally out." He knew perfectly well who stood before him, but you couldn't tell he was scared. Suddenly, a huge scythe appeared in the hands of the Demon King. Its size was unbelievable. To wield such a weapon, one must have divine power. Here they are face to face. The fate of all mankind rests on the shoulders of this young boy. What? The Demon King is going into battle mode and opening his third eye. With a swing of his scythe, he sliced through space. If this attack hits its target, the hero will not survive. The speed of his attack was many times faster than the speed of light. But, thank heavens, our hero was able to dodge it. But if he keeps it up, he won't be able to fight it off. The blob of energy the scythe created hit the rock behind our hero. The explosion was so powerful that it could be compared to the strongest earthquake. Seeing this, the hero says, "If it gets to me, I'll die. I have to be very careful." When suddenly, the Demon King was already in front of him. Our hero tries at the last moment to block his shot. He was thrown backwards by the force of the blow. He struggled to his feet with all his might. Not even a second later, the Demon King attacks him again. This time there's no way to block the blow. All that's left is to duck, and once again, the demon's punch misses. The hero's speed is astonishing. Realizing that this couldn't go on any longer, he decided to attack him, but they were completely useless. The Demon King speaks. "You think your pathetic attacks are going to work on me? But the Demon King's protective barrier can't be broken that easily." The hero realized he needed a new plan. And then he remembers the old legend that if you hit the dark stone in his forehead, only then you can damage it. "We have a plan. Now we just have to figure out how to break through his barrier." But there's no time for reflection. No matter how our hero tried to break through the Demon King's barrier, it was useless. His gun lacked power. When all of a sudden, the Demon King says, "You're just a fool. Our abilities are on different levels." In his hand concentrated a blob of dark matter. The power of such an attack could surpass that of 1,000 nuclear bombs. After gathering enough energy, the king attacked him again. The only way out is to break through his barrier. We must keep attacking. But the dark matter bombs were too fast to counter them. We have to dodge. The more he dodged, the more tired he became, and the slower he became. And speed is the only trump card that can play a major role in their battle. "Shit!" shouted our hero. One of the bombs hit him. From that blow, his guns fell out of his hands, so now he's not only wounded, he's unarmed. The Demon King walks up to him and tastes victory, says, "You're just pathetic. No matter how hard you try, you can't even scratch me." As the hero suddenly shouted out, "Are you sure? How about a bet?" Above him, a teleportation pentagram appeared. Out of it, the hero pulls out a huge rifle, and he says, "Now let's see how this battle ends." Wasn't this all part of his plan? Fire ray. Our hero mimics the earth and fires a shot in seconds. That appears right on target. He finally hit the Dark Stone. The Demon King clearly didn't expect this. After the hero's successful attack, this stone cracked. Along with the stone, his barrier cracked. The angry king shouts at him, "You wretched worm!" That shot obviously wounded him, but it made him even angrier. "I'm gonna wipe you out," screams the demon. He tries to grab our hero with his aura. The boy, he didn't understand a thing at all. Darkness enveloped his head. When the darkness almost completely overpowered the hero, he suddenly broke free and screamed, "Now I'm separated from you." He fired on the Demon King again and again, even though he was in a barrier. The hero thought, if he doesn't leave the country, I'll make him do it. Increased power, accelerated attack. Now its application is even stronger and even faster. The hero realized if he aimed all his blows at the crack in the barrier then, he would succeed in destroying it. His attacks were endless. The explosions were incredibly powerful. His armor was still standing but weakened considerably. The hero decided it was time to finish him off. It's time for his strongest attack, Judgment Dawn. The speed of this attack was staggering, the human eye unable to notice it. Finally, the hero was able to break through the Demon King's protective barrier. But the bullet did not stop there. It was like the first ray of sunshine moving forward. The darkness that captured the hero began to gradually flutter, which means that the demon is dead, and if he survived, he was badly wounded. The dark crystal has been destroyed, which means the Demon King has been stripped of his powers. He screamed furiously in pain. "How do you so flee?" Lightning started flashing from the shattered crystal. But now is not the time to relax. The hero grabbed the pistols he dropped earlier and soared above the demon. It was already clear how this battle would end. Before the final shot, the hero tells him, "Do you have any idea how long I've been playing World 2.0? As a result, the Demon King was very surprised. But he had no time to say anything, as the hero finished him off. After taking down the demon's head, the hero says, "It was fun, but fuck it." The hero was badly exhausted from the battle, however very happy with the result. That's it. Game over. I didn't think magic skills could be that good. So in order to have a good time with magic, I'll use a character from the New World 3.0 update mages added in this update. However, if he were just a simple magician, it would be boring, right? World's Karma system created a special magician. This is a system where the player receives penalties in exchange for bonuses. I don't usually use this karma system because of the high risks involved. If you earn these penalty characteristics, you can get an additional skill. If it is possible to get all magic characteristics of the maximum level, I'll be the greatest magician in history, funny and curious. At this rate, the character will be sick to his stomach, because there would be a lot of penalties. Someone yells, "Renok! Renok!" From those screams, the Renok woke up in a cold sweat. My last memory is the loading screen before starting the game. As soon as the download finished, the screen went black. I immediately lost consciousness and thought that the earth was falling away under my feet. It was like I was being sucked into something. Suddenly, Reno is grabbed by his shirt and lifted out of bed. He is terrified, not realizing where he is and what is happening. All he sees in front of him is an unknown man who is yelling and about to hit him. Shouting, "Time to get up, and hurry up!" The man punched the renegade right in the face. The blow was so hard, the guy even fell off the bed. He looked around and saw a crowd of oddly dressed guys in front of him. It felt like he was in a military camp. When all of a sudden, this guy starts yelling like crazy again. "Fucking idiot! It's work time and you're asleep. Maybe I'll give you a good kicking, you little brat." Finally, the old man's finally calmed down. He said he's waiting for him in the conference room. The other men in the room started laughing at him and saying, "What an idiot. He slept until the probation worker came. Don't worry about him. The kid will die soon. But then the probation worker will get it too. It's like if you lay a finger on him, he's done. So this guy, huh?" However, Wang saw something special in him. He had a feeling that the Renok wasn't so hopeless. The warden started yelling again, but this time at everyone. "You brainless idiots, move." No one wanted to quarrel with the warden, so everyone quickly carried out his orders. A young boy witnessed an interesting conversation between Van and the warden. "Look, Van, you ordered what I asked for, right?" "Yeah. I'll give it to you as soon as it arrives." "Reno, huh? But that's the character I created in the game. Somehow, I must have become him in real life. It's been 3 days since I woke up in this place. It was like a factory. I still don't understand a lot of things, but I got used to working in a factory pretty quickly. Here we have to get up before sunrise and work until we are exhausted. Before going to bed, we are given porridge, which is more like slop. The workers refuse to act on my questions. Some are simply afraid of the warden. But a lot of people don't want to talk because they've already written me off as a dead man. And to be honest, I can't say they're that far from the truth. With a weak body, such a difficult thing will last even a week. Suddenly, the overseer shouted across the shop floor, "What the hell are you doing here?" The warden had a rubber truncheon in his hands, which he did not hesitate to use at every opportunity. "Reno, you're a useless idiot if you don't get up now." Suddenly, Renoka's cough interrupted him. From the looks of it, he was in a very bad way. The warden and the van, seeing how badly the Reno was coughing, were greatly surprised and concerned. Not wanting to make a fuss, the overseer ordered Van to put him somewhere far away so he wouldn't see him. Not wanting to make a Reno, felt that he had a high fever. However, even in such a situation, he was able to keep his sanity. Apparently, it was because of the willpower he had put into his character. Fuss, the overseer ordered Van to put him somewhere far away so he wouldn't see him. The overseer came closer to him and pushed him with his foot, and in a calm voice said to him, "Get up and get out of here." As he walked away, he yelled again throughout the hangar, "We're busy people, you know, so get out. You can measure somewhere quiet." I wonder why Wong is always walking around as a probation worker. Yeah, I'm in pretty bad health. I gotta do something about that. Glad it's a skill fee. If the magic talent level is what I made it in the game, I'll be able to escape, use my powers. That's actually a great plan. But before you try it, you need to find out more about this place, and being ignored is good for me. Chances are no one will even notice my absence. He went through the door from which the warden usually emerges. He saw a dark corridor at the end of which was a door ajar, with rays of light streaming in. Could this be the door that led outside? Looked into it. The Reno couldn't believe his eyes. He saw some of the crew members standing around and chilling. But after just a few moments, he heard their dialogue. One of them spoke. "The ones they brought in the other day are so slow." Suddenly Van speaks up. "What do you expect from these scum? But if we use them right, we'll reap the benefits. I'm more concerned about whether or not the delivery can be reinstated tomorrow. What are they even going to do with this product?" And then Van says, "And you don't know? They sell our shredder to a black magician. Then there is magic in this world, and I will use it. But what's the right thing to do?" Wong pulls out an obscure object from his pocket that looks like an e-cigarette and says, "You know what this is. It's a body enhancer. Viper. It's the new version from Calvin and Cubs. Is it worth using it following the consequences? A new filter reduces toxicity in the fluid." When he saw this device, the Reno was very surprised. He thinks they're monitoring Manu thanks to this device. It's amazing what technology has achieved. Now it doesn't take a year of training to harvest mana from natural energy. Suddenly, the Reno absorbed a large amount of mana. A blue aura enveloped his body, and small lightning bolts began to emit from his eyes. It's like an electric charge went through your body, and it was like the sixth sense took over. It was like a third eye had opened. What? My alter ego. I've never felt anything like this before. I didn't even realize there was something like that. A basic force shaping this world, and a driving force defining existence. Magical energy that flew into the air and entered my body with every breath. A force that was familiar and foreign at the same time. Sure, it's the magic of the world. Thanks to it, I can accomplish anything I want. After the shift was over, when everyone else was asleep, the Reno was awake. He's a great self, a new self. He knew that. With that mana level, he could have run away from here at any moment. He had heard that the man would be reformed. The union would come in 2 days, and accordingly on that day they would not have time for him. The question remains, is there any way to travel alone and remain inconspicuous? I have to come up with a plan to get them to dump me. That's right, if I put a little light on my forehead. It worked. I think I'm running a fever. His whole body is covered in cold sweat, and at first glance he does seem to be terribly ill. I think it looks like I'm about to die. I hope they leave me alone. Meanwhile, Wong brought the warden his package. Okay, the probation worker ordered a Viper. The warden says to Van, "Well done, good job. You want some while I'm being nice?" "No thanks, I'll abstain." Van replied. But the overseer insisted. He coaxed him. Come on, help yourself. As a thank you for always doing a good job. When all of a sudden, the overseer gets very worried. He says, by the way, that kid who's sitting on the shop floor today looks like he's about to die. Make it neat. You don't want a union member to see that, okay? Van is a little confused when he hears the warden's request. He didn't like it, but he had no other choice. The next morning, the bedroom speakers blared, which meant it was time to get up. All the workers were barely out of bed. Suddenly, a notice sounded on the loudspeakers. Union men are due today, so the wardens will be more brain-dripping than usual. While everyone was getting ready for the shop, Reno lay in his bed covered in cold sweat. It looked like he was going to die. And that's exactly the result he was trying to achieve. The rest of the workers saw that it had begun to whisper. What's wrong with him? Fever, I guess. I think he's going to move his horse soon. And what if he's dead by lunchtime? What do we do? I can't get rid of the body. And the bald man answers him. And what are you looking at me for? I'm not going to carry a dead body. They decided to get rid of him now before it was too late. The plan worked. When suddenly, out of the blue, Wang walks to Reno's bedside. Van didn't have the best reputation among the workers. Everyone around me started whispering. Being here like this, the guy's only making us uncomfortable. Seems like he wants to do it clean. When he heard what the workers were whispering about, he thought, what are they talking about? What does it mean to clean me up? When Van came up to him, he reached into his pocket for something. This situation makes him nervous. When suddenly Van grabs him by the shoulder. The boy, terrified, goes off in a huff. He doesn't know what will happen next or what to expect from him. But Van just holds out the Viper and says, hey, take it easy. Take this. It's called a Viper, an active enhancer that temporarily improves physical strength. Leaving, Van says, he should be enough to stay with the topic ahead of you. I wonder what he's talking about. Reno, sitting on the edge of his bed, decides to try Viper, when suddenly his body began to reappear with a blue aura. The energy is just overflowing. That's probably the effect it's supposed to have. That guy, Van. Wasn't he the one with the errand in the warden's room? The mana level in the Reno's body was at an all-time low. Due to the recent circumstances, the escape plan is changing slightly. The bottom floor of the loading dock. It is on this floor that the goods from the workshops are loaded into the trucks and dispersed. The gray-haired man says, not much product. Was I expecting too much? By all appearances, this is a union man. One of the shop stewards with a guilty look tells him, no. Suddenly the old man says, hey, remind me again, who owns this factory? We've lightened our workload a little bit because the Human Rights Commission has brought charges. Don't you think you should show your sincerity and all that? Yep. Looks like this factory boss is not a union man. The foreman started bowing and hollering, excuse me, Mr. Warden. As suddenly, the Reno brings the box to the inspector and with a pained voice tells him, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I have a case with the director and his office is closed. Could you open it? When suddenly this man became enraged and started yelling at him. Can't you see I'm busy right now? What business? But the Reno, not out of character, answers him. It's a Viper tangent. As a result, the man didn't hesitate a second to take the keys and say, ha, shit. It's infuriating. He ordered Reno to follow him. Our hero was surprised that he had persuaded him so easily. Walking down the hall, man says to him, I'm very busy, but tell me, who's the smartass who asked you to move this right now? And move your ass. Who would ever think to entrust something like that to you? Reno, with his whole look, ordered that he was about to die. Opening the office door, he said, I don't understand why they need this useless thing. Put it on fast and get out of here. Now! Reno concentrates enough mana to knock him out but not kill him. Reno put an electrical charge right through his neck. It's incredibly painful, but not fatal. In this business, it's all about not overdoing it. The amount of electricity flowing through his body made the man's mouth foam. A second later, the guy said with relief, I did it, picking up a bunch of keys off the floor. In Reno's hands was the way to freedom. After getting a better look at Turn On, he shouted out in surprise, shit, are those car keys? Before you can execute your plan, you have to stock up. He started going through all the drawers looking for something he could use, when suddenly he opened one drawer and saw a gun. He's gonna need that. Also, to reduce his visibility, he decided to change his clothes, when suddenly he found a whole crate of Vipers. He sat down on the couch to rest and think. It's an incredible thing, I think. Takes away pain and relieves fatigue in the body. Great, I've got what I need, so now it's time to go. Suddenly, Reno heard footsteps approaching the door. It was the overseer. Moving closer to the door, he asked, what is that? Viper odor? As he entered the office, he started yelling, "Who decided to vacation there?" A second later, the anger changed to surprise. Or rather, terror. On the floor, he saw his friend with foam pouring out of his mouth. Reno decided to ambush the warden. He was going to use the same technique on the warden as he did on the mark. However, the warden was faster than his friend and was able to dodge his attack. He was horrified by what he had seen. In a trembling voice, he asked, "What? Magic? Who are you? What to do?" There's no time left for a new discharge. We have to figure something out right away. After getting a better look at the attacker, the overseer cried out in horror, "Wait! You're a Reno?" Feeling superior to him, the warden decided to teach him a lesson, when suddenly Reno pulls out a gun and points it at the fleeing warden. He was petrified like a statue for a moment. The warden immediately puts his hands up and says to him with a pathetic look, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Wait, but, Reno was serious. "You realize he's about to be finished." The probation worker says, "What are you gonna do? Why don't you calm down and we'll talk calmly?" "Reno, I apologize for everything I've done to you." How kind and gentle he became as soon as the gun was at his head. The warden continued to justify himself to him. "I had no other choice. If you don't kill me, I won't tell anyone. Honest." Reno was well aware that you couldn't believe a word he said. But he couldn't kill a man. When all of a sudden I hear that scream in the hallway. "Yed, are you there?" Reno didn't know what to do in this situation. You can't trust that asshole. And you can't take his life either. The warden begs for his life. He promises to keep his word and not tell anyone about what is happening here. "All right. This door leads to the parking lot. You can get out of there. Let's go quietly before someone comes. It's gonna be bad for you too if you get caught, right?" There was logic in the warden's words. But what should he do? Meanwhile, another warden walks down the hallway and says, "The idiot's snoozing somewhere again." I remember when he said he came to work to beat up other people. When suddenly he decides to look into the office. He is speechless at what he sees. Terror seized his body and he couldn't even move. At the same time, a red car that belonged to Mark comes out of the parking lot at crazy speed. That's the guy the kid electrocuted. When Van sees Mark's car pull out, he asks, "Hey Mark, we got a lot of work to do right now. Where are you going?" When the car window rolled down, Wang got scared. Scared so badly that it stinks. Of course, because Rennick was driving the car and he pulled a gun on him. He threatened to shoot him if he didn't open the gate. Van says in horror, "Yeah, sure, I'll get it, but don't shoot." The barrier, it's starting to open. Here it is. Just a few more meters and freedom. It's done. You can leave. Like, everybody's nice and polite, as soon as you point a gun at them. Van begged him not to kill him, when suddenly the radio started blasting with screams. "Off, off!" The warden who went into the office where Ed and Mark were saw that they were dead. And he started yelling into the radio, "Seal off all exits. I repeat, cover all exits." When the Reno hears this, he says, "If I let you live, you're going to be a big problem." Reno had no choice if he wanted to escape. He didn't want to do it with all his heart, but he pulled the trigger nonetheless. Inside, the checkpoint was covered in blood. My high spiritual power, warmth, and calmness has conquered the security within me and allows me to stay sane. What? There's another way out? It doesn't matter what stands in the way of my goal, though. A calmness that becomes even stronger in an extreme situation. I was able to escape. He decided to get far away from this damn city. After what he's been through, he can be considered a truly talented magician. Now, we welcome the huge megapolis. Its stunning lights can drive you crazy. Amongst the many giant skyscrapers lurks one very interesting one. This is the headquarters where the players are trained. Someone decided to sneak into this building. The guards tried to stop the intruder by any means possible. However, the man was not deterred by this. He wanted to get out of the building alive. He was even ready to jump out the window, despite the height of the guards were shocked by the act. How could he jump from that height? When suddenly one of them says, "You can't see the body, but no one would have survived a jump from that height. We need to go downstairs and make sure he's dead. We can't let him get away." Welcome to Balkan City, man's greatest creation. Did you the magical and technological city of the Balkans was divided into several separate neighborhoods? The way in which, passing through the gates, Balkan City was perfect for hiding. After all, this city has a population of over 10 million people. Reno, looking at the city through the car windshield, thought, "Amazingly, this world is completely different from the one in World 2.0. Also, the whole place is imbued with magic to the core. I feel the familiar power I felt in the factory. This means that there is a huge amount of magical energy in this world." Meanwhile, Reno's health was getting worse and worse. He looked more like the Walking Dead than the greatest magician in history. Coming to his senses, Reno says to himself, I went a little overboard. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to so much trouble trying to escape. However, in an emergency it was grabbed with him. A small supply of Viper. After thinking about it for a bit, he decides that he won't use them, because in the future he won't even be able to get out of his chair without using them. He was well aware that the Viper should only be used in the most extreme of emergencies. But before we make any further plans, we need a good night's rest. While driving along the highways, he notices a nice hotel nearby and decides to stay there. Upon entering the room, Reno almost fainted, but still managed to stay on his feet. It took him an hour to get to this spot to make sure there was no tail, and had to give up the car, even though he loved it. But now he'll finally be able to rest. He couldn't even make it to the bed. After taking only one step, he faints and falls to the floor like a stone. So he went down for about 5 hours before Thirsty woke him up. Looking for a bottle of water, Reno naturally came to the kitchen. His head was bursting with pain from such extreme fatigue. From the minibar, got a bottle of water. His thirst was so independent that he tried to drink that can in one go. He started to feel much better after that, when he suddenly vomited. But that's not surprising, because at the factory he had eaten nothing but waste. Seat on the floor. My head is about to explode. My muscles ache and tear apart. Something has to be done about this. His hands were shaking. Apparently it's a side effect of the Viper, but if he wants to move this body, he has no choice but to rely on the stimulator for now. After throwing up the rest of his food, he felt very hungry. His stomach ached more and more. The last time he ate was 12 hours ago. Of what was in the fridge was canned food, which tasted not great, but better than nothing. When suddenly the phone rang. Reno was very surprised. No one knows he's here. Picking up the phone, the cute girl tells him, "Good morning, dear sir. You have 2 hours left to pay for your room." The girl asks the renegade, "Want to extend your stay here?" He doesn't hesitate long before answering, "Yes." There's nowhere else to go. The total bill is $22,000 cell, $200,000 for lodging, and $20,000 for canned goods. With your prepayment of $100,000, the balance is $120,000 cell. To pay what you need to pay today. Otherwise, if you get evicted. When Reno heard how much canned food costs, he was shocked. Why it was so expensive. To deliver all his money, he thought, I have 130,000 selves on my hands. And after payment, I have 10,000 left. That's not even enough money to pay for a day's stay in a hotel. He's got to come up with something. He can't even buy food with 10,000. But first things first. You should clean yourself up before you go out. The first thing he did was to cut his hair. His hair looked more like straw than hair. Seeing himself in the mirror, he thought, that'll do. I wonder if anyone I know will recognize me. The next day, the market decided to walk around the city, hoping to meet some of my acquaintances. But I didn't even have enough strength to walk 100 meters without resting. When he was once again on vacation, he began to consider where to get money. He realizes that he can't make money legally in this world. He's a fugitive. Reno gets an idea. The best way would be to beat up the criminals and take their money. I don't think that would be a problem. You should gather enough information about the antechamber world before you act. Using his magical abilities, the Reno began to absorb natural energy and with it, information. I heard that the engineer at Palmer's who was checking the new 2 for bugs is missing. We'll have to find a replacement. He's looking for an agency to lobby for the selection of the 17th Neighborhood Construction Company. And the profit-sharing provisions in an 8-2 win? Are there any druids out there that are involved in green belt reduction? I want to leave an application, and I'm thinking of getting an endangered species of T9. But that was it. It was useless talk that didn't help the Reno in any way. Suddenly, he heard someone extorting money. This is it, he thought. Reno was already ready to get down to business when suddenly his head began to hurt incredibly badly. Damn body, it can't even take the most basic exertion. But Reno, in his pocket, had a stimulant. Using it, he felt a surge of incredible power. It's time to make money. Meanwhile, there was a real fight in the alley. The bandits were just mocking the guy. They threw him into a pile of garbage. One of them says, "Hey, remember what I told you? I thought you said that we wouldn't have any problems this time." The guy's face was already covered in scratches and bruises. Suddenly, one of the thugs starts kicking and screaming at the guy. "Except I heard from you that you lost the money we stole." This guy starts making excuses and says, "Yeah. Listen to me. I'm not lying. They just disappeared." When suddenly, the second robber speaks. "Look, this isn't going to solve anything. To recoup the money we lost, let's sell it in pieces." This guy is clearly in a lot of trouble. A guy sitting in a pile of garbage, begging to be spared. Suddenly he's screaming all over the alley. "Help me, please! At his scream, a Reno came running. He struck the bandits with electricity. Everything around him lit up with a bright blue light when the renegade fried those idiots. He said with a smirk on his face, "It's a piece of cake. Why were you yelling like that?" This poor man did not understand anything. His voice trembled with fear. But he asked nonetheless, "How did you do it? How did you save me?" But Reno didn't care about him. He just wanted money. After searching the bandits, Reno found 700,000. But the question is, how much is it? But in any case, now he can buy some clothes or medicine. When suddenly he decided to reach into another pocket. He pulled out an object that looked like a pen. Seeing him, the battered guy yells out, "Please don't point it at me." After taking a closer look at the object, Reno realized that it was a modification of a laser cutter. It had been illegally altered to become a weapon. The kid decides to take it with him. After all, the more self-defense he has, the better. When suddenly Reno speaks up, "What you just saw." But the guy immediately interrupts him and says, "I get it. I won't tell anyone." But his eyes started to glow a bright blue color, and he had a slight smile on his face. And then he says, Yeah. Everybody says that. A guy asks to be kept alive and promises to do whatever he asks. Reno briefly tells him. Then the answer to the question, "Do you know what there is to do around here without an ID?" "'Cause I'm new in town." That same evening, Reno comes to the bar. However, if you take that guy's word for it, it's just a cover-up, because he's about to walk into a room full of beaten bandits. He decides it's worth hiding his identity. Reno changed himself beyond recognition. In this world, you can only rely on yourself, inside as well as out. It looked like a very ordinary bar with local drunks. Reno entered the bar and surprised the old bartender. He had never seen him before, and new people don't go to this bar. He asked for the bar and asked me to pour him something lighter. In the classic genre, the bartender pours him a whiskey on the rocks. When suddenly Reno speaks up, "Look, I need a job. Do you have any jobs for the magician?" But the bartender didn't seem to hear him. He was still minding his own business. After an awkward moment of silence, a girl comes behind the bar and says, "Hey, we're out of time. I'm going to take a little nap, and you guys are doing what? Wow, she's so gorgeous." And then, the bartender points to the Reno and says, "Madam, this man says he's a magician." The girl looked at him and says with a surprised look, "A magician? Doesn't sound like it." "Well, wizards are rare, so I don't care about appearances. I'm Jenny. What's your name, weirdo?" I thought about it for a while and realized I can't reveal my real name. After a second of silence, he speaks. "My name is Van." Jenny, leaning on the bar stool with a sexy face, says, "Van, someone must have told you about this place. Isn't that right? And you're looking for a job, I take it? What are your skills? Tell me. I won't see you as a mage if you have any of the usual tricks in your arsenal. You don't need to reveal all your secrets. However, I need to understand what level of mage you are." But the kid decided not to tell her, but to show her. Electric charge was his main trump card. Jenny was very surprised to see his powers. After all, magicians with electricity hadn't been seen in over 1,000 years. She was also surprised that he was able to activate the spell without a magic circle. She gave him a contract. To have a wizard like that as an ally. A great advantage. When suddenly Jenny asks, "You're looking for a job, but you don't care what you do." To which the guys reply to her, "Almost. I'm not gonna lie to people." After Reno now Van's seen the contract. The girl pulls out a clipboard and says, "You'll be the hunter. We'll pay you as soon as we see the results." His first target was Tyler Evans. He's a janitor, but escaped 3 days ago after trying to steal Achilles' security equipment. After reading this, Van says, "Attempts. So he didn't succeed? There's no way a regular janitor could have hacked the security system." Jenny says, "The thing is, all the other janitors were killed. That's when Tyler escaped. Then Achilles tasked us to capture him. Since the steward to whom he belongs has refused to get involved, we will have no problem." But Van was interested in the size of the reward. Jenny says, 3 million isn't too much. But for catching a rat, it's not a small price to pay. By taking a closer look at Tyler's file, Van says you were able to get his blood work. "Can I get more information?" Jenny was surprised at such a request, however, saying, "I can give it to you. But what's the use? If you want to use mage's blood for capture, don't. They're greedy idiots who ask for 5 million per order." But Reno had another plan. He could use a couple of common spells to help him find the right person. The common magic from his memories is what he remembers from World 2.0. The number of its levels is gradually growing, which is nothing short of gratifying. is the most appropriate magic for this mission. Hunter class magic from version 2.0, when suddenly his eyes glowed bright red, and his aura turned burgundy like blood. It's the blood chase spell. Around the scrap of cloth with Tyler's blood on it, a magic circle appeared that spewed a large amount of energy. A moment later, this energy took the form of a cobra. Renok's strength is simply astonishing. A bloody serpent led him to an abandoned train station, where homeless people lived on the platforms. Renok found Tyler in a matter of hours. Most mages would have taken days. When the kite found Tyler, he stopped. And you went off like a bomb. Tyler, exhausted, turned around and whispered, "What was that?" When suddenly a Renok appeared out of the red mist, his eyes still glowing red. Tyler knew he was being hunted. So as soon as he saw the wizard, he knew. He ran as fast as he could. He couldn't understand how the Renok had found him. Renok came in here fully prepared for battle. He didn't expect Tyler to start running away right away. The case on the outside was not easy. With a body like that, he would have trouble running, and he wasn't completely sure of the effectiveness of his long-range attacks. As soon as the spell reached him, he immediately fell to the floor. He was on the floor, writhing in pain. Blood was pouring from his ears. I guess the Wren had misjudged his strength and overdone it a little, but you could tell by the look on his face that he didn't care about Tyler. He just came closer and said, "You shouldn't have run away from me." When suddenly there was the sound of a gunshot, and Renok's defense barrier went off. But that shot was clearly not aimed at him. The sniper was aiming at Tyler. Turning around, hoping to see Shooter, the Renok says, "The bullet came as if out of nowhere, while I decided to put up a protective barrier. Realizing he's in the palm of his hand, decided to activate another solar barrier reinforcement spell. He has to hold on at least a little bit, even if an anti-tank missile comes at him. The priority right now was to find Arrow, so he used a scanning spell, but the scanner shows no one within a kilometer. It's unlikely that a human could have shot from a greater distance so accurately, which means the shooter is either farther away or using camouflage to avoid simple detection. Well, who'd want to shoot Tyler? What secrets are you keeping? I'm not the only one after you. Probably someone who wants the guy to shut up forever. Well, that's none of my business. But if he's preventing me from accomplishing my mission, that changes things." Renok pulled out his gun and pointed it right at Tyler's head. Renok has no intention of letting go of the sniper who tried to kill Tyler in front of him. We can't let Van's hunter image be destroyed. Renok put a bullet right in Tyler's forehead. The more people think Van cold-blooded cruel, the less people will be willing to get in his way. When Sniper saw what Renok had done, he was stunned and didn't know what to do next. After all, the target had been eliminated. The shooter's excessive emotion gave away his location. Now the Renok knew exactly where the shooter was sitting. The moment he killed Tyler, his mom freaked out. The sniper immediately realized he'd been discovered. He needs to get out of position immediately. But Renok didn't want to let him go so easily. The sniper was less than a kilometer away, and Renok had the right spell for that, by collecting enough mana. He thought, "Among the ordinary magic, I remember the one I can control with my eyes closed. Electrical magic like lightning." Renok decided to get to Shooter with that spell. The sniper, seeing what Renok had done in his scope, was surprised. He sincerely didn't understand why he was using magic, when suddenly the cloudless sky turned into a thunderstorm. The sniper couldn't believe his eyes. Was it really this guy's magic, he asked himself? It's time to attack. Renok used the Thunder Call spell. It allowed him to direct the lightning strike. After something like that, no human being could have survived. The light from the explosion was so bright that it illuminated the entire city. Renok himself did not expect his attack to be so strong. Seeing the destruction his attack caused, he thought, "It's a whole different level from what I've seen in the game. Now it's safe to tell everyone I'm a lightning wizard, just like Zeus." But for now, use magic constantly, Renok was having a very hard time. Every attack like this exhausted him physically. Arriving at the spot where the shooter had been, the Renok looked around and said, "Damn, Sniper must have gotten away. I doubt it was a regular person, but there's no point in chasing him. I think I've made it pretty clear you don't want to mess with me. That should be enough to get the name Van, Lightning Wizard, all over town." Renok walked back to the bar and brought Tyler with him. Saw him, the bartender sighed and whispered, "There's a back door behind the building. Could you go in from there? I'll get my bag and you can go in first." The old man starts exhuming, and he said, "If you're here on business, please enter through this door. I guess I'm getting old and a monument to hell for forgetting to tell you about it." The old man asked for a few moments before presenting the reward for a completed hunt. After examining Tyler's body, the old man says, "Cause of death, gunshot wound to the head. I don't see any traces of magic, all organs intact, so it's definitely Tyler. Reno was surprised at such professionalism of the old man. He couldn't help but ask him, I'm sorry. Were you a pathologist? The old man answers him, no, but something like that. Would you like your reward now? You're really 2,700,000 without the 10% commission. If you would like to receive your money in another way, there will be an additional charge. Reno asks in amazement. Another? How's that? Pay. You can get bonds, stocks. You can also transfer to a shell account in a bank. There are times when it is difficult to ask for money laundering. As a friend, Jenny walks into the room and says with a smile on her face, Uh-oh. Who do we have here? You could tell by the look on her face that she was genuinely happy to see him. That was fast. I take it you need money fast, huh? At first glance, you couldn't tell Jenny was doing anything illegal. Usually other hunters have to spend more time searching than killing. What's your secret? That you could find him and kill him so quickly? Unwilling to reveal his secrets. Reno says with absolute indifference, there's no secret, I just got lucky. Jenny knew he was lying. But she didn't want to bother him. So suddenly she said, Good. Still, I think you're really talented, and now we can continue working with you. Reno, he says, I won't tell if you throw me a couple more assignments in the near future. To which he gets the answer, no. We have other things to worry about right now. We must return everything to Achilles. We seem to be on the same page, but it takes time to earn full trust. It's kind of like a dating situation. Reno has nothing more to do here. Besides this job, he's got a lot of unfinished business. When Reno is gone, the old man holds out the girl's tablet and says, You're gonna see this is a must-see. I looked on the janitorial network and found something. The next morning, Reno came to the city library. He came here to learn about the magic system of this world. He must also find a way to extend the life of the Reno, one whose life force is draining away like water. His body grows weaker by the day. Time-related magic. Maybe he can find information on higher magic. He had already read over 100 books of various techniques and spells, but only one seemed truly useful. This book on the structure of mana. He read in a book that if you press on the points where mana flows, it will reveal its structure. It also says in the book that some archmages can change it. To get a better look at the structure of his, many better, he decided to enlarge its streams. He noticed that the pattern changed depending on how much mana he was pouring in. This is very interesting. Only mages of higher equations can change their mana structure. While he was studying magic books. Well, he didn't realize it was evening and the reading rooms were empty. After reading enough literature, he thought, it's a little different than I thought it would be. But after these books, my view of magic has completely changed. The magical arts can be divided into two categories: ordinary and unique. Unique. This is a type of magic that every mage can be trained in, but it is more specialized and powerful. Ordinary magic is inferior to unique magic, but has an extremely wide variation of use regardless of attributes and purposes. There was no mention of ordinary magic in this world, but then how did I use it? No matter how talented Ryanok was, he couldn't change the very concept of magic and create something that wasn't here. Now he had even more questions. And he still hadn't found any time-related magic, when suddenly a girl in a short miniskirt comes up to him and says, Already decided to give up? If I understand correctly, from your books, you want to be a magician, don't you? The girl casually put the business card in his inside jacket pocket, and said, To be honest, you're very strange. If you need advice, now you know where to go. As she walks away, the girl says in a sexy voice, Next time we meet, I'll show you some magic. When she left, the Reno said, You're the weird one. On the business card the girl gave me said, Labatine University, Department of Elemental Magic, Professor Aris Rachelen. Reno couldn't get that girl out of his mind. He couldn't understand how she had become a professor at such a young age. Though he was a great wizard, his body demanded ordinary human food. Walking past the cafe, the Reno thought, If I make my own food for this body, it's healthier than from a restaurant. When suddenly he sees a policeman checking people for IDs. He should never let them see him. Trying to calm himself down, he says, Calmly. I have to stay calm so they don't suspect me of anything. It's not me they're looking for, of course. It's just a routine ID check. As he is suddenly interrupted by a woman's voice that says, Hey, you, Reno. At first I didn't realize if the girl was talking to him or if she was on the phone. And then the girl says, Are you doing something illegal or what? How did she find out about it? You kept your eyes on the mana sample check, like you were involved in something criminal. Mana is like a fingerprint in this world. It's used to check people's fingerprints. The girl abruptly changes the subject and says, "So why are you here?" Reno notices that she has a lot of fruits and vegetables on her counter. That's just what he needs. They have an interesting dialogue where the boy learns that this girl owns a shop. Growing fruits and vegetables is her hobby. Sparkle ran between them. Reno got a little embarrassed and thought, I can't tell if she's joking or not, but she's very pretty. But it doesn't matter. But the girl interrupted the silence and asked him, "Look, are you going to stand there like a pole? Or are you going to buy something?" Not confused, Reno immediately answers her, "Wait a second. I'm just thinking about what to get." When suddenly the girl holds out a huge onion to him and says, "Take this. This is a type of onion that helps with insomnia. You think you need this right now?" To be honest, Reno knew he looked no better than a dead man himself. But that was the price of the power he possessed. After a little thought, Reno says, "Then put in a couple, 5 more green onions and 6 peppers, please." When all of a sudden the girl doesn't make a sound and says, "Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you. Your mom is amazing and unique. What's a magician like you doing here?" So Reno answers her, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just an ordinary student. I'd remember you if I'd seen you before. You're new to the Balkans, aren't you?" This girl was really starting to get on Reno's nerves. He didn't understand who she was. Not only could she figure out that I was a mage, but she was talking about mana patterns. The girl holds out a bag of groceries to him and says, "You owe me 32,000. Reno wanted to get out of there, so he gave money and left as fast as he could. The question remains as to how she saw his mana structure through the protective barrier. Even the police need special equipment, and this woman has kept her own eyes open. Either she has some kind of skill or she's a very powerful magician. Shit, and my mom could be found out by a stranger. We need to do something about that." After that day, he spent time in his room studying magic and its intricacies. He did it all to increase the effectiveness of his spells. The normal magic he already possessed. But he still couldn't find a nag to the unique magic, even though he could feel it inside him with every cell of his body. In the meantime, his health was rapidly deteriorating. The usual medicines were no longer helpful. O realized since he was now dependent on his medications, he needed more money. To buy better drugs, and for that, you need an ID card. Well, in his short stay in this town, Reno had made some connections that could help him with this case. And naturally, he came to Jenny, asked her to make him an ID. She, despite laughing, says, "Who do you think I am? Of course I'm going to do it, but it's going to cost a lot." The market wondered how much she wanted for this service. After a little thought, the girl says, "As a local employee, I'll give you a discount. So a new passport will cost you 20 million. Reno fails to say a word. He hears the girl say to him, "But don't sweat it. I just found a job for you. There's a lot you can do with your magic." Since Reno needed the money very quickly, he immediately asked what he had to do. Jenny exhaled heavily and said, "It's a little off the beaten path. It's a mission from the company. Yeah, you get paid more money than a simple hunter's job. Van, I know you prefer hunting, but when it comes to earning a large sum of money, it's better to do orders from the company. You don't like chasing crazy criminals, do you?" But here he interrupts her and speaks with full confidence and firmness in his voice. "Not at all. I don't care what the job is, as long as it pays well." All right. Whatever you say, let's go talk somewhere else." To be honest, such an offer was a bit of a surprise. When they were alone, Jenny decided to tell him the details of the assignment. Mission objective: a new cosmetics factory by Charlotte Corporation in the 42nd Ward. 80% of the construction fee was financed by the state, so it's kind of dramatic. The moisturizers they make are clearly being tested on humans. The factory produced an anti-aging drug. It was even able to regenerate dead cells, as evidence that people were skinned alive in experiments. The manufacturer clearly doesn't care about anything but profit. After listening to her, the renegade says, "But the case is solved and everything is clear. What more do you need?" But the girl replies in a fury, "What are you talking about? They haven't even taken the factories away." The company wisely got the government involved as a sponsor, so their case came up with rumors and whatnot. So, our customer is this company called Veritas Corporation. They've recently gotten into the cosmetics business, and they want to remove Charlotte. They also put 2 conditions on the job. 1, after the infiltration, they'll pay $350 million to steal cosmetics data from the factory. If that's not to your liking, there's a second option. They will pay $50 million for destroying the plant with no possibility of rebuilding. After a little thought, the guy says, "Ha, the first one sounds like Mission Impossible. Jenny was in solidarity with him in this opinion and felt that the customer was not paying extra for such an assignment. Maybe not just thinking someone stupid would bite. In fact, it's a request to destroy the factory. Has thought it over in detail, and he's going on this mission. Destroying the factory is easier for him than taking candy from a child. Jenny was infinitely glad he explained. In a childish voice, she said, "Great. Then I'll introduce you to your partner." "What? You didn't say I'd be working in pairs." Renoka's frustration was understandable. After all, he wants to hide his real capabilities until the last minute, when all of a sudden there's this weird noise coming from the door, and a guy in red tights bursts into the room. And to be perfectly honest, his costume is painfully familiar. It's not Deadpool. Also had a squeaky voice like he was 5 years old. Seeing him, Reno thought, "God, what an idiot I have to work with." Jenny decides to introduce them before they go on a mission together. Turns out the idiot in the red suit's name is Dylan O'Casey. He's an anti-stress mercenary. He was also known for being willing to work for paltry sums, while Van got up from the couch. Dylan and Jenny were whispering, "Hey Jenny, don't you know that first impressions are very important? What he'll think of me if you lead me on like this." The girl smiled and answered him, "Maybe you're the masked psycho." Since they had no choice but to work together, they decided to get to know each other. And Dylan says, "So, you're my partner in this mission? I hear you have magic." Reno answers him, "Yes, that's right. My name is Van, and I'm a lightning mage." Dylan starts shaking his hand like crazy. And the Reno asks Jenny, "Look, why do I need a partner?" A slightly sad voice answers him, "Because I think it's going to be hard to do it all at once." But then Dylan barges in and says, "Don't worry, I could have done it myself." But Jenny insisted on 2 people wearing it, didn't she? Dylan was starting to piss her off even more. She was ready to punch him right in the face. But then Reno says, "I'd rather know in advance that I'd have to work with someone. So we're splitting the 50 million in half. But let's not forget Jenny's share." But then she says, "I made a mistake this time, so I'm not taking anything. Divide the spoils as you see fit." Reno was surprised to hear that. He couldn't believe she'd immediately admit she was wrong. "She's not as simple as I thought. Maybe she's just trying to find out my weaknesses. Giving up my share is a good way to make amends. But was the deprivation really wrong? Well, at the very least, I can always leave and not work with her anymore. In any case, I'm in the lead in our relationship." And then Jenny screamed, "All right, now that that's settled, why don't we take a look at the layout of the factory?" Finished, they came from 42 neighborhoods. In contrast to the 50-plus neighborhoods from the 40th and below have better infrastructure. However, all neighborhoods are fairly well supplied and developed. Factory is in good condition and is located in the 42nd district. To the surprise of our friends, the streets were completely empty. When all of a sudden, Dylan decided to ask, "Look, Van, Jenny seems to have a lot of respect for you, doesn't she? She doesn't usually give up money so easily. She always takes interest, but now she won't. I think she wants to maintain a good relationship with you. Jenny never did that to me." Listening to him, the Rennick was greatly surprised. He heard their whole conversation at the bar. I wonder if his mask is a cover so no one recognizes him. As we friend stops and holds out a business card to him and says, "Oh, you can have this." Reno asks him in amazement, "A business card? Why would I need one?" But Dylan tells him, "Well, you don't have to work at just one place." Reno, taking a better look at this business card, asks him, "Are you trying to gain my trust now? You know, there's not a lot of good magicians around these days. Plus, you could use the money. It will be good for you, too. Even though our office is not popular yet, we have many people who are in great physical shape just like me. But please keep our whole conversation private about Jenny. I don't want to ruin things with her." Reno only smiled. But it was time to work, too. A little while later, Reno couldn't stand it and said, "You're a master of the tongue. Let's see you in action, Deadpool." Finally, they came. However, the factory was heavily guarded and the perimeter was surrounded. Scouting the situation, the renegade says, "We're clear. The guards don't cause me any concern. They look too flimsy." At this time, the case was polishing his knife. After a little thought, he replies, "Of course you are. Because you'd have to be crazy to break into a Charlotte. I wouldn't even look in their direction if Veritz hadn't gotten us the assignment. But don't underestimate them. They're from the 888 Security Bureau. They're former thugs. Compared to the other guards, they're not even considered human." And in a very low, almost feminine voice. "Which means they can be destroyed, and it's not a conscience issue. And one more question. Are you going to work with an open face? Maybe their security isn't that good, but shining a light on your face isn't worth it, don't you think? As Dylan suddenly holds out a balaclava to him, which had a plastic nose and huge red lips. But Renok says he doesn't need a mask. He's already wearing it. However, Renok didn't want Dylan to fail the mission, so he pulled his golf over his nose. It's time to get down to business. Their strategy is simple. While Dylan distracts the guards, Renok will enter through the warehouse, infiltrate and destroy everything. It may seem like a simple task, but if Renok has to risk anything, it's Dylan. Dylan beginning his role. Although his task is simple, it is extremely important. He decided to take advantage of the surprise and attack the guard first. Taking an unsuspecting guard by surprise, he finished him off easily. It was several minutes before the other guards could find their comrade unconscious. But he was in for a surprise. Dylan appeared out of nowhere, and with a swift kick he took out another guard. He expected more from former thugs. They were much weaker than he thought. After making sure everything's clear, Dylan waves to Renok to signal that he can begin his part of the mission, as he suddenly noticed a truck pulling up to one of the hangars. Turns out, Dylan and Renok were spotted before they could even enter the compound, and backup arrived in a truck. Dylan heard one of the guards talking on the radio. Thought I'd scare him. Boo. While security's busy with Dylan, it's the perfect time to break into the warehouse. Even though Renok didn't like Dylan much, he recognized his strength. Apparently, Jenny was a real people person. But before breaking into the hangar, Renok decided to use the Viper. There's no telling how many guards are inside. It's strange that no one guarded the entrance to the hangar. It's more like a trap. As he approached the door, Renok saw that it was locked. That meant it was the perfect time to use his laser cutter. Finally got a chance to put it to use. As expected, he handled the armored warehouse door perfectly. There was only one guard waiting for him at the entrance, and he had his hands shaking with fear. This poor bastard threatened to kill Renok if he didn't surrender immediately. The mage had expected more resistance to so guarded an object. He took pity on the old man and simply put him to sleep. The guard could not withstand such a spell and collapsed to the floor like the dead. The renegade believes that ordinary people don't belong in this whole mess, so using the puppet spell, he led the man out of the warehouse. The deeper he goes, the more this place creeps up on him. A warehouse that should be full of guards with absolutely no one in it. And only the screams from the street reach our hero. Dylan copes with his mission perfectly. Or maybe all the guards ran out to see the Dylan. That's why there's no one inside the warehouse. The warehouse wasn't exactly empty. While the Renok is looking for the right office, Dylan's fighting with the guards. He didn't want to kill anyone, so he used every possible way to disarm them. And I have to admit, he's doing an amazing job at it. Despite the guards being bigger than he expected, he was able to handle the whole crowd. Having finished all his business outside, he decided to join the Reno, and was also surprised to find the warehouse completely empty, not a living soul. At first, he thought all the guards had run to find Wang. Before he's a couple of meters away, he sees a gun in his sights. Looks like that's the end of the fun Deadpool. These active guards came out of nowhere and managed to take him by surprise. It was strange that Renok hadn't met any of them, but because of his temperament, Dylan took it as just another fun thing to do. The guards conditioned him that if he didn't surrender in 5 seconds, they would open fire. However, Dylan wasn't the kind of guy to give up so easily. He saw one huge upside to the whole situation. He didn't have to go out and look for them one by one anymore. Now that's what I call an ironclad character. Unbelievable. So Dylan is just a fool to me. He's an incredibly fast fool, I'm kidding. Actually, it's really unbelievable. In just a few seconds, he was able to deal with a whole crowd of armed and trained guards. Well, it would be reckless to assume that's the end of it. The remaining guards tried to shoot him. Of course they're not going to make it. Despite the buffoon image, don't underestimate Dylan. That's it. This is the last one. Dylan had accomplished his part of the mission. Now all that's left to do is wait for Renok. Meanwhile, the hero was already in the basement. That means he's almost there. His plan was to open up the gas supply to the entire room, then just blow it up. Luckily, the gas tanks were full. But Roku, he gets very sick right away. If he doesn't take the medicine immediately, he may lose consciousness. But luckily, there was enough power to open Gaza. Now the key is to get out of here before it all blows up. Now all that's left is a spark, and the mission is a success. Creating a flame is easy. All you need is the elemental elements of magic to do so. All done, now all we gotta do is get Dylan and get out of that warehouse. Renoku should thank the girl from the vegetable stand. After all, it was after meeting her that he started working on changing and perfecting elemental magic. That's how he learned that you can combine a stronger spell element. The effects of the elemental fire and air, he created the timer spell. The principle of its action is very simple. The spell is triggered after a certain time. 5 minutes should be enough time to get out of here. Timer is set. After 5 minutes, all that's left of this warehouse is a pile of rocks. Just as the Renok was about to leave, there was a strange noise outside the door. Upstairs, someone's trying to get through the gate. What bad timing. It only took 2 blows to break down the heavy doors. But who has the strength to do that? Dylan seems to know who it could be. Holy crap, what the hell is this sewer monster? Could this be one of the company's experiments? When Reno heard the noise, he immediately went up to the Dylan. The young magician was greatly surprised to see this monster, for he had not met such a monster before, nor had he even heard of such a monster. Luckily, Crocodile didn't see him. That means there's an ideal chance of dealing with him unexpectedly. This beast, though it looked like a crocodile, was clearly much smarter. And its strength was amazing, like a bulldozer. When all of a sudden Dylan says, "Oh, it's you. How long has it been since we've seen each other? 10 years? They must have known each other for a long time. They were probably co-workers before. But that was a long time ago. The crocodile left their company when the office had a new boss. He doubted his decisions. Well, he came here for a reason. He was commissioned to take out Renoka and Dylan. He was paid $10 million to do it. He promised he'd kill Dylan quickly just out of old friendship. Clearly, Deadpool wasn't going to give up so easily. This was not going to be easy. But before they started fighting, Dylan asked for his bag back. His request made the crocodile laugh. He thought that nothing could help him anymore. So he honored Dylan's request. And that was his big mistake. Now we're gonna have a serious conversation. It's funny how a small bag can hold such a huge spear. Despite having serious weapons, the crocodile nevertheless has a huge advantage in strength. The crocodile didn't even fight him for real, but just played like a cat and mouse. Dylan decided to try the axe because the spear couldn't penetrate the monster's thick skin. Now he needs to give it his all, or he'll lose his head. But even that attack was unsuccessful. The crocodile just kicked him like a soccer ball. Without Renok's help, we don't stand a chance. But the mage watched the crocodile just beat up his comrade. But why doesn't he join the fight? The point is, the Renok is thinking about his plans of action. After all, brute force is clearly not going to defeat him either. And time was running out. In 2.5 minutes, there's going to be a huge explosion. We have to think of something right now. And in the meantime, Dylan fought fiercely, but the Renok can't leave him. This crocodile clearly superior in strength to both of them. There's no more time. We need to act now. Even if we can't defeat the crocodile, the Wren can distract him from Dylan. When all of a sudden the monster says, "I'm disappointed in you, kid. You used to be different. You don't have the bloodthirstiness you had when we first met." Dylan was clearly caught up in his words. But why? However, that wasn't entirely true. Although Dylan had become less bloodthirsty, he had become more insane. This was his last chance to get out of this battle alive. He was well aware that he had almost zero chance of winning this battle. But he wasn't going to give up. Dylan's only advantage over the crocodile was his speed. Thanks to her, he was able to get behind him virtually undetected. But the thick hide of the crocodile didn't make it so easy to finish him off. But Dylan never gave up hope of punishing the crocodile for his insolence. He wanted to prove to him, and most importantly to himself, that he could still defeat only a strong opponent. Although the speed was excellent, the power was lacking. Dylan fine, he needs to get even faster if he wants to win. He took his speed to a whole new level, and pelted the crocodile with a barrage of lightning-fast attacks. Unfortunately, it didn't have the desired effect, and the crocodile was able to counterattack him. Finally, the Renok enters the fray. While the crocodile was busy beating up Dylan, he attacked him with a floating lightning spell. Now, they have a real shot at victory. Of course, this spell won't kill the crocodile, but it will certainly disorient it. Dylan, no longer expecting the Renok to come to his rescue. That's why he was so glad he was here. Great! Now that the crocodile is disoriented, Dylan has a chance to take him down. This time, without further ado, Dylan decided to attack him from above. He had a better chance of penetrating the thick skin. Damn! The crocodile was able to deflect his attack with his tail. This time Dylan won't get a second chance. Crocodile felt his superior attitude toward Dylan. Why didn't you tell me about the wizard? That would have been a lot more fun. I'm gonna start with you and then I'm gonna rip your friend's head off. Unbelievable. It's impossible to survive a blow of that magnitude. Now the Renok is alone with this beast. But while the crocodile was busy with Dylan, Renok managed to hide. Renok was incredibly impressed by the crocodile's durability. After all, its lightning bolts can melt steel, and the monster doesn't give a damn. The best way out of this whole situation is to run away as fast as possible because the explosion is only seconds away. Before leaving here, Renok decided to look for Dylan, and luckily he found him, and he was still alive. Now, however, there's another problem, how to get him out of here. After all, he can't pull him himself because he's too weak physically. Renok has no choice but to increase his power level, because of the dependence on mana. Renok didn't want to use these enhancements, but now is not the time to worry about that kind of thing. Now it's about getting out of here alive. We've got to get out of here as fast as we can because it's only half a minute before the plant goes up in flames. Meanwhile, the crocodile is still looking for the Reno. He's about to get an unexpected surprise. Suddenly, the crocodile screamed, Where are you hiding, you stinking magician? You didn't run out of here like a rat, did you? As suddenly, all his musings were sharply sharpened. And that's it. Time's up. This is gonna be fun. Finally, the warehouse is destroyed. Except Dylan almost died. Mission accomplished. Even though Reno and Dylan didn't get far enough away. But the protective barrier worked perfectly. When all of a sudden, Dylan woke up and said, I feel like it's a broken bone in my body. I'm a jellyfish. A sense of humor is a good sign. I think he'll be fine. After the boost, Reno needed to replenish his mana levels or he'd die. Thank God he had a spare viper with him. Delana was very surprised that Reno was using stimulants. He'd heard that they could have serious side effects, even death. Reno knew full well the gravity of his actions, but at that moment he had no other choice. After resting a bit, the Reno speaks. Look, that crocodile is strong. I thought you didn't stand a chance, but you're almost as good as him. You're a superhuman who can use his body to the max. Dylan clearly didn't want to answer that question. He just said he didn't know what he was talking about and took it as a compliment. If they want to survive, they need to get out as fast as they can. The guards and the police will be here any minute. But Reno was intensely interested in the question, did the crocodile survive this explosion? But Dylan was sure the crocodile had survived. He also didn't understand how Reno couldn't know who the crocodile was. This monster's name is Croconocilius of Pandemium. Renoku. That name didn't mean anything. And expectedly, instead of a factory, it's just a pile of rocks. Frankly, it's incredible that a crocodile could survive the explosion. Dylan decided to tell the amazing story of the Kraken. Once upon a time, a long time ago, he was a military mercenary from a private military company. And when he quit, he became the head of Pandemonium. I'm a very famous organization, where only the most dangerous criminals are invited. And the Kraken was able to lead it. No problem at all. Reno was shocked to learn this. What scared him most was that a thug like the Kraken was at the head of the organization. After the explosion, there wasn't a scratch on the crocodile. From now on, the monster's main goal was to kill Reno. Dylan and Reno need to get out of here now. They can't defeat the monster now. The crocodile wasn't going to let them go. Bringing the building down on him only made him angrier. Reno knew that in this world it was possible to strengthen the body with mana, but the crocodile's level was crossing all limits. Kraken screams in rage. How can a punk like you be a wizard? Apparently he didn't like the explosion very much. The Kraken had knocked out Dylan with its previous attack, so now they had no chance of escape. The only way out of this situation is to kill the monster. This fight needs to be over as soon as possible. Because now is the time against Reno. It was strange that Kraken didn't immediately tear Reno apart and just asked him. Did he use lightning magic? The monster said he wouldn't kill them, but he needs the money. Kraken wanted to attack unexpectedly, except a mage of this level isn't as easy to deal with as he thought. Reno used gravity binding, which completely immobilized Kraken. Kraken was greatly surprised that it was just a spell that was able to stop him. The thing about this spell is that the heavier the target, the stronger the gravity, which means a 3-ton Kraken can't get out of a trap. What? How can that be? The Kraken's strength is unbelievable. The Reno, however, wasn't about to let him go. All it would take is one blow and the wizard would be nothing but a blank slate. Mana reserves have been drastically reduced. Therefore, we must use the remaining mana wisely. You have to be sure of what you're doing. The Kraken has managed to escape the trap. A new plan must be made immediately. Otherwise, Reno will be finished quickly. Crocodile, intent on tearing the Reno apart like a doormat, and then he'll go after Dylan. When Reno's life is threatened, he intends to release all his energy. He has no intention of holding back when his life hangs in the balance, while the Kraken, still immobilized. Reno began to absorb natural energy, thereby dramatically increasing his mana level. The monster is confident that he can survive the mage's attack this time too, by collecting enough mana. Reno used ice captivity. There's no way out of this trap. This spell not only immobilizes the enemy, but also absorbs its power. When suddenly Dylan comes to his senses. He's had a busy night tonight. Let's get him out of here. Again! How much power does he have in him? Even high-level mages can't get out that fast. We gotta get out of here while we still have a chance. Mana is too low. Reno can no longer use defensive spells. However, there's enough mana to boost the attack-ranged weapons. This fighter needs to be finished once and for all. He's done it before when he was a gunslinger in World 2.0, using combined attack magic. Enough of these games. It's time to end this monster. The market uses 3 spells at once: auto-targeting, armor-piercing rounds, and acceleration. Combining these 3 spells into one, the speed and power of the shot will be incredible. This old gun might not be able to withstand that much mana, but that didn't matter now. I'm sure the monster won't stand a chance after this shot. All spells have been created and synthesized. Fire! As I expected, the gun couldn't handle that much mana. But most interestingly, could the crocodile survive? doing a little baffled that a mage uses a weapon in battle. A child's perception of mages is shattered. He thought they only ever use spells. He was surprised that the mage could shoot so accurately, for he had hit the monster in the forehead. But Renoka had no more strength left. With that last attack, he bought a little more time. So they'll be able to escape, as suddenly a hoarse voice comes out of the darkness and says, "Nice try, kids." Even that didn't work on him. Then how do we stop him at all? Whoa! Did he catch the enchanted bullet with his eyelid? From what he saw, Renok went into a stupor. He used 3 kinds of magic to enchant the bullet, and the crocodile just caught it with his eye muscles. The bullet couldn't even scratch his eye. This sturdy body is unbelievable. When suddenly, Renok felt an electric current run through his arm. But that's impossible because his mana reserves are depleted. And with so much mana running low, melee's the only choice. Maybe the two of them have a chance. This time the crocodile didn't talk much. He got right down to business. He'd had enough of dealing with these losers. Renok couldn't believe this was how he was going to die. At the hands of a mutant. It can't be, because there's not enough mana to make a normal barrier. How did he manage to survive? So that's what this is all about. It wasn't the wren that stopped the Kroken's blow. It was a stranger. But who is she? Though it doesn't matter now, she saved his life, and that's enough. This stranger who saved our hero's life. Name's Evelyn. She's a guardian of the city government. Her job is to fight the likes of the Kroken. Evelyn seriously thought Kraken blew up the factory, and promised he'd be punished for it. The crocodile was a real badass, though, and the number of crimes he committed could get him 10 life sentences. But he doesn't take other people's crimes. Naturally, Evelyn didn't believe him. She thought that after the last case, pandemonium would lay low for a while. The crocodile, not thinking long enough, shouted out, "Evelyn, you listen to me. It was that couple that blew up the plant. I had nothing to do with it." Evelyn stared at them in surprise, expecting some sort of excuse. However, they simply remained silent. However, Evelyn still didn't believe him. She still thought the crocodile was a criminal, and that they were hostages to the situation. Of course, it's easier for her to blame it on the Kraken than to assume that the explosion happened because he didn't stop those two in time. When all of a sudden the crocodile says to her, "Think whatever you want. I'm tired of arguing." Is he really going to run away from her? And really, he just walks away. But in his defense, he says that fighting a government agent is not part of his contract. And he's not going to do anything he's not paid to do. I'm incredibly surprised that the crocodile just ran away from her. Just how strong is she? When suddenly the girl decides to take off her mask. Renok had met this girl before. Unbelievable. So vegetable shop is really her hobby, and that outfit looks great on her. Suddenly Evelyn asks Renok, "Wait, haven't we met before?" Renok realizes he's in a precarious position. That's why he says he's never seen her before. He had guessed before that she wasn't an easy girl, but he didn't think she worked for the government. Time is running out. The girls need to report the incident immediately. It's a good thing Renok heeded her advice at the time, and changes the shape of his mana every time he uses magic. Before leaving, the girl gave them some advice. If they both want to survive, they shouldn't mess with pandemonium. Now it's all over. Exhaling, Dylan says they're lucky she came to their rescue. None of this would have happened if Dylan had left the factory sooner instead of doing Fight Club. After some thought, Reno tells Dylan to waive his share of the fee. He's the reason they're in this mess in the first place. Even though the market would get most of his share, he still felt like he'd been screwed. But that's not surprising, because they would only be paid 50 million for such a complex mission. Renok decided to replenish his mana supply with Viper. Such frequent use of the stimulant can have fatal consequences. Renok was fine, but he couldn't help himself. Without him, he would have died by now. After that story, they went good friends.